Lina Morgan stood near gate 27, clutching her purse with one hand and her printed boarding pass with the other. Her suitcase, faded blue with one broken wheel, leaned against her leg. She looked small in the middle of the busy airport, not just because of her size, but because of the way she stood. Still, quiet, watching. Taking it all in. It was her first time on a plane. Her first time leaving the small town of Maple Hills where she'd grown up. And now she was headed across the country for the chance of a lifetime, an interview at the prestigious Avalon Grand Hotel, a luxury chain she had only ever seen in magazines and online ads. She wore a simple beige sweater and a pair of black slacks. Her hair, soft brown and tucked into a low bun, had been done with care that morning. She had no makeup on, just a light chapstick and the glow of hope in her eyes. Everything she owned, everything she had worked for in the last 5 years had led her to this moment. Lina had grown up in hardship. Her mother passed away when she was 15, and her father had left long before that. Since then, she'd juggled school, late-night shifts at diners, cleaning jobs, and anything else that paid enough to keep the lights on. She had missed college to take care of her younger brother until he graduated and joined the military. Now, finally, it was her turn. Her chance. Her dream. Still, as she looked around the airport with its bright signs, rushing crowds, and endless announcements, she felt like a stranger in a different world. Everyone seemed to know where they were going. People moved fast with earbuds in and coffees in hand, tapping their phones and calling out gate numbers like they had done this 100 times. Lina's heart beat fast. Her palms were damp. She kept checking the departure board, even though her gate hadn't changed in over an hour. She whispered the flight number to herself again and again just to be sure. She didn't want to mess this up. She COULDN single quotes D. Just then, a movement caught her eye. An old man, maybe in his late 70s, stood about 20 feet away. He had silver hair, a brown coat too big for him, and thick glasses that kept slipping down his nose. 2 suitcases surrounded him, one on wheels and the other a leather bag that looked far too heavy for his frame. He bent over, picked up one, and dropped it again, looking around in confusion. Lina blinked, then glanced at her watch. Boarding would start in 15 minutes. She had found her gate early on purpose. She was ready. All she had to do now was wait. She should stay where she was, but the man looked lost. More than that, he looked scared. She looked around to see if anyone else had noticed. Some had. A young couple shook their heads and turned away. A woman in a power suit stared at her phone. A teenager nearby rolled her eyes. No one moved. Lina took a step forward. Then another. "Excuse me," she said softly as she reached him. "Do you need help?" The man looked up, blinking. His eyes were watery but kind. "Oh, I don't know where I'm supposed to go," he said, voice trembling. "They changed my gate and I can't read the board very well without my other glasses. My daughter typed it all on my phone, but now I can't find the message." Lina gently took the paper he was holding, a printed itinerary, and scanned it. "Okay," she said. "You're on flight 842 to Denver?" He nodded. Yes, that's the one. "But it's not here anymore, I think." "No problem," she said. She turned toward the nearby monitor and checked. Then moved to gate 14. "That's downstairs." The old man looked down the corridor, his face falling. "Oh dear, how far is that?" Lina could tell he was tired, really tired. The bags were too heavy for him. She looked down at her own ticket. Her gate was right here. Her boarding was in 10 minutes. She could sit down and let someone else deal with this. She could walk away and not feel guilty. She had done her part, that something deep inside wouldn't let her. She took a breath. "Come on, I'll help you." You will," he said, surprised. "Of course," she smiled. "Let me take one of these." He tried to protest, but she was already pulling the heavier suitcase. "It's not far," she added. "And we'll ask someone official just to be sure." They walked together through the crowd. The path was not easy. People brushed past them in a hurry. Some muttered under their breath. Once someone bumped the old man, and Lina held his elbow to steady him. She kept smiling at him, softly reassuring. She asked a uniformed agent for confirmation, then guided the man to the elevator, downstairs. Gate 14 appeared, calmer than the one she'd come from. A friendly airline staff member greeted them and confirmed that the flight to Denver was boarding in 20 minutes. "You're early," she told the man, smiling as she took his boarding pass. The old man turned to Lina. "I don't know how to thank you." "It's no trouble," Lina said. "Just have a safe flight, okay?" He looked at her carefully now. "You have somewhere to be, don't you?" She checked her watch. 5 minutes until boarding. She could still make it, barely. "Yes," she said. "But I'm okay." "No," he said, digging into his coat pocket. "I want you to take this." He pulled out a folded bill, a $100 note, and held it out to her. Lina stepped back. "Oh no, I can't, please," he said. "This meant everything to me. You didn't have to stop, but you did." "That's worth something." His voice cracked and she could see his eyes shimmer again. Lina hesitated, then slowly took the bill, not for the money, but because it clearly meant something to him to give it. She nodded once and smiled. Then she ran, back through the crowd, up the escalator, through the busy terminal with her suitcase dragging behind her. Her lungs burned as she moved faster than she had in months. She reached Gate 27 just as they were closing the final call. "Wait," she gasped, holding out her ticket. The woman at the gate looked surprised but scanned her pass. "Just in time," she said, smiling. "You made it." Lina walked down the boarding tunnel, breathing hard, heart pounding. As she found her seat and settled in, she felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, exhaustion. Pride. The seat by the window was empty. She sat there, clutching her purse, and finally let out a shaky laugh. She had done something good. And she hadn't. Missed her chance. As the plane lifted off the runway and into clouds, Lina stared out the window. For the first time, the sky didn't look so big. For the first time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she belonged in this world. Her dream was still ahead of her. But she was already flying. Lina's heart was still racing as she ran up the escalator and back into the bright terminal. She clutched her boarding pass tightly, weaving through the crowd as fast as her legs could carry her. Her gate had been just around the corner. She was sure of it, but when she turned the last corner toward Gate 27, fighting Miss Devon, her steps slowed. The door was closed. The seats were empty. The screen above the gate read "Final boarding complete." She stood there, frozen. For a moment, her mind refused to accept it. She hurried up to the counter, breathless. "Excuse me," she said to the woman behind the desk. "Flight 915 to San Diego, did it just finish boarding?" The woman gave her a quick look and nodded. "Boarding ended a few minutes ago, ma'am. That flight just pushed off from the gate." Lina blinked. "But it's not even departure time yet." "I'm sorry." "Once the doors are closed, we can't reopen them," the woman said, a little too calmly. "Especially for economy." Lina's throat tightened. She held out her ticket, her voice cracking. "I was helping someone. An elderly man who was lost. I didn't think it would take that long." Can I get on the next one?" The woman checked the system. Her fingers clicked the keyboard for what felt like forever. "Your ticket was non-refundable and non-transferable," she said finally. "I'm really sorry." Lina stared at her. "So I can't get on another flight?" "Not without buying a new ticket." "How much would that be?" The woman looked again, then turned the screen slightly. Lina's eyes went wide. Even the lowest price was far more than what she had in her bank account. She stepped back slowly. "Right," she said quietly. "Thank you." She walked away in a daze, not sure where she was going. Her suitcase bumped along behind her. The broken wheel dragging across the floor like an anchor. She found a small bench near a row of vending machines and sat down, her hands shaking. This couldn't be happening. She reached for her phone and called the number the hotel had given her for the interview coordinator. Her fingers trembled as she held it to her ear. It rang 3 times, then a calm voice answered. Double quotes, "Hello. This is Kara from Avalon Grand Human Resources." "Hi, yes, this is Lina Morgan. I had an interview today at 3 p.m. I missed my flight." "I helped someone," and her voice broke, but she pushed through. "I was wondering if I could reschedule. Maybe tomorrow or later this week." There was a pause. A long one. "I'm sorry, Miss Morgan," the voice said gently. "We had very limited slots for in-person interviews this round. We're moving into final decisions after today. But I've waited so long for this. I worked for years just to please," Lina said, her voice nearly a whisper. I really wish I could help, Kara said. But we're under strict timelines. You're welcome to reapply in the next cycle. The line went dead. Lina stared at the phone, her fingers still gripping it tightly. The sound of the terminal swirled around her. Babies crying, luggage wheels rattling, voices echoing overhead, but everything felt distant now. Her chance was gone. She looked down at the $100 bill the old man had given her. It sat folded neatly in her pocket, the corners soft and worn. Her heart ached. What had she done? A little voice inside her whispered that she'd done the right thing. That helping someone in need was never a mistake. But another voice, louder, colder, reminded her that she had nothing to show for it now. No job, no interview, no plan. Her chest tightened. She'd told her younger brother she was finally going to start her life. She had left town with so much hope. Oh, and now what was she going to tell him? What was she going to do? Her throat burned. Her eyes stung. She wiped her face quickly when she saw a woman in a janitor's uniform walking nearby with a mop and bucket. The woman was humming quietly as she cleaned the corner near the bench. Lina hesitated, then stood up. "Excuse me," she said, her voice hoarse. "Did you see an old man here earlier? Gray hair, a brown coat, 2 suitcases?" The cleaning woman stopped and thought for a second. Yeah, he was here a little while ago." Looked a little lost, then walked off with someone. Someone? Lina asked. Yeah, some younger man in a dark jacket. Looked like they knew each other, helped him with his bags. Oh, Lina said, suddenly feeling hollow. Do you know where they went? The woman shook her head. Sorry, hun, I just saw them walk that way. Lina sat back down, numb. She would never know who the man was. She hadn't even gotten his name. No last name. No number, nothing. It was like he appeared just for a moment, like a test from the universe. And now he was gone. She took a long breath and tried to swallow the lump in her throat. The tears were close, but she held them back. No one around her noticed, no one cared, and yet she didn't regret helping him. Somewhere out there, that man had made it to his flight. Somewhere out there, someone's father or grandfather was safe and flying home because she had stopped to help. She just hadn't expected the cost. She looked around at the people moving past. Everyone had somewhere to be. Everyone was in a rush, and here she was, stuck, alone, and unsure of what came next. For the first time in a long while, Lina felt small. Powerless. She thought about her town, the dusty roads, the little diner she used to work at, the bus stop where she waited every morning. She had left all that behind with one suitcase and one hope. Now, even that hope felt distant. She opened her purse slowly, pulled out her wallet, and counted the cash she had left. It wasn't much, maybe enough for a meal and a bus ride. Maybe. Not. Her phone buzzed with a message. She hoped for a second it was the hotel changing their mind. But it wasn't. It was her brother. Good luck today, Lina. Mom would be proud. She stared at the message for a long time. Then finally let the tears come. She cried quietly, head down, shoulders trembling. She had done her best. She really had, but sometimes doing the right thing didn't feel like a reward. Sometimes it just felt like heartbreak. Lina sat quietly on the bench, arms wrapped around her bag, staring at nothing. The airport around her moved like a dream she no longer belonged to. Her eyes were tired from crying, but there were no more tears left. Hours had passed. The light outside the windows had changed. The energy of the place felt different now, calmer, less rushed. But nothing had changed for her. She had missed her chance. That interview had been her one shot at changing her life. She had saved for months, skipped meals, worked overtime, and now with one missed flight, it had all fallen apart. Her phone had gone silent. She hadn't told her brother yet. She didn't know how to tell him. She didn't even know what to do next. The idea of going back to Maple Hills with nothing felt heavier than the suitcase by her feet. Voice called her name. She didn't react. At first, no one at this airport should know her name. She assumed she'd imagined it. But the voice came again, closer this time. Miss Lina Morgan? She looked up slowly. A young airport staff member in a navy blazer stood in front of her, holding a clipboard and smiling politely. Yes? She said, confused. I've been looking for you, he said. Someone has rebooked your flight. Lina blinked. What? You've been rebooked, he repeated. New flight. It leaves in 45 minutes. Here's your ticket. He handed her a crisp boarding pass. She glanced at it and froze. First class. Flight 927, San Diego. First class. I think. There's some mistake, she said quickly. I didn't buy this. I can't afford this. There's no mistake, the staff member said kindly. It was arranged for you. Everything's covered. By who? She asked, standing up now, her heart racing. I'm afraid I don't. No, but you're also invited to wait in the VIP lounge until your flight is ready. Would you like me to escort you? Lina looked down at the ticket again. It had her name on it, printed clearly. The lounge access code was marked in gold. She hesitated, then nodded. The young man smiled and led her through a different set of doors, past the regular security lines and noisy gates. Soon she found herself in a beautiful, quiet space with soft lighting, leather chairs, and trays of fresh fruit and sparkling drinks. A woman at the front desk welcomed her like she was someone important. She offered Lina tea, snacks, and a hot towel. Everyone smiled at her. Everyone acted like she belonged there. Lina sat down carefully, afraid to touch anything. The tea was fragrant. The fruit was sweet. She still felt like she might wake up any moment and find herself back on that cold bench. Her mind raced. Who had done this? The old man? But how? He had disappeared without a trace. He didn't even know her name. And yet, someone had clearly gone to great effort to get her on another flight, and not just any flight. First class, 40 minutes later, a quiet announcement called for boarding. A staff member walked her to the gate personally. No long line. No pushing crowd. Just a smooth walk to the front of the aircraft, where a flight attendant greeted her with a smile and took her bag. This way, Miss Morgan. You're in seat 2A. Lina stepped into the plane and paused. She had never seen anything like it. The seats were huge. More like mini rooms with walls for privacy and wide leather cushions. A large window gave her a perfect view of the setting. Sun. She sat down, still unsure if this was really happening. The seat reclined with the touch of a button. A warm blanket and a soft pillow were already waiting. She barely had time to settle when someone slid into the seat beside her. Lina turned. Woman next to her was elegant, maybe in her early 40s, with dark hair pulled into a sleek bun and a perfectly tailored navy coat. Her eyes were sharp but kind. She smiled gently as she looked at Lina. You must be Lina Morgan, she said. Lina's eyes widened. Yes, how do you know my name? The woman extended a hand. My name is Celeste. Lina shook it carefully, trying to hide her confusion. Did you arrange all this? Celeste smiled again, but didn't answer right away. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope, handing it to Lina. Lina opened it slowly. Inside was a note written in neat handwriting. Some moments define us not by what we gain, but by what we choose to give. You gave kindness. Without expecting anything, now it's our turn. Enjoy your flight. There was no name. No signature. Lina read it again, her heart thudding. Was this from the man I helped? She asked. Celeste looked at her, her expression unreadable. Not. Everything needs to be explained right away, she said softly. Just know that your kindness reached someone. And they remembered. Lina stared at her, unsure what to say. Her eyes began to burn again, but for a different reason this time. Thank you, she whispered. Celeste nodded once. It's only the beginning, Lina. The plane began to move. The engines hummed. Outside the window, the sky turned golden. Lina sat back, still holding the note in her lap. She didn't know where this new path would lead. She didn't know who had done this for her or why. But something had changed. She wasn't just a girl with a dream anymore. She was someone who had been seen. Someone who had mattered. For the first time all day, she smiled. Not a small, uncertain smile, but a full, quiet one filled with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Lina leaned back in her luxurious seat, the soft hum of the aircraft soothing her nerves. The note still rested gently in her lap, and she kept glancing at it, as if afraid it might vanish if she looked away for too long. Every part of this experience felt unreal. The spacious seat, the delicate glass of sparkling water on her tray, the soft, kind voice of the flight attendant asking if she needed anything. But most of all, it was the woman beside her, Celeste. whose presence somehow made everything feel even more mysterious. Celeste sat comfortably, her posture graceful but relaxed. She held a cup of tea and looked out of the window thoughtfully. As the plane climbed above the clouds, the golden sunset painted the sky in soft orange and pink hues. Lina kept stealing glances at her, curious but nervous to ask more. "You're wondering who I am?" Celeste said suddenly without turning her head. Lina blushed, caught off guard. Maybe a little. This is all so unexpected." Celeste finally turned toward her, a knowing smile on her face. "That's understandable. Most people don't expect to be rescued from airport benches and placed in first class." "I still don't know why," Lina said softly. "I helped someone, yes, but people do that every day. I didn't do anything special." Celeste studied her for a moment as if measuring her words. "You helped someone in need, knowing it would cost you something important. You chose kindness over personal gain. That may not be rare in heart, but it's rare in action." Lina didn't know what to say. She looked down at her hands, folded in her lap. "I thought I lost everything, my interview, my chance. And yet," Celeste said, "here you are, still flying to San Diego." Lina looked at her. "You said you know the person I helped?" Celeste nodded. "Very well, in fact. You see, that man, the one with the heavy suitcases and the confused expression, he's my father." Lina's breath caught. "Your father?" Celeste smiled fondly. "Yes, Walter Monroe. You wouldn't have known the name. He doesn't use it much outside business anymore. But he's the founder and chairman of this airline." Lina's eyes widened, stunned. "Wait, the old man at the airport? That sweet, tired man who didn't even know where his gate was?" Celeste laughed softly. "He knows exactly where every gate is. He designed most of the early terminal flow himself back in the day. But he wanted to go undercover, see what it's like now for older travelers, the ones who don't have assistants or first-class lounges. He doesn't like boardrooms anymore. He likes people." Lina shook her head, overwhelmed. "But why didn't he just wear a badge or tell someone who he was?" "Because people treat you differently when they know you're powerful," Celeste said. "He wanted the real experience. He does this every few years. Puts on an old coat, picks a random flight, and walks through the airport like anyone else. No bodyguards, no help, just him and a couple of bags." Lina leaned back, her thoughts spinning. "So when I helped him, he wasn't actually lost?" "Oh, he was lost," Celeste said, amused. "He's terrible with technology and refuses to use his phone unless he's checking the weather. But he was observing too, watching how people responded. Most people ignored him. Some gave him annoyed looks. One woman offered him directions, but walked off before he could ask more. And I stayed," Lina whispered. "You did more than stay," Celeste said gently. "You listened. You guided him all the way to his gate, even though you were in a hurry yourself. He told me you missed your flight because of him." Lina nodded slowly, her throat tight. "I didn't want to leave him alone. He looked like he needed help." Celeste's eyes softened. "You did the right thing even when no one was watching, except someone was." "He told you everything?" Lina asked quietly. "Everything," Celeste confirmed. "He came straight to me after. You left him at the gate. I just arrived to pick him up from the lounge when he burst out talking about you. Said we had to find you. Said we couldn't let someone like you walk away unnoticed." Lina blinked rapidly, emotions swelling in her chest. Celeste smiled. "He was very specific. Put her on the next flight, first class. Make sure someone tells her she's not invisible. She needs to know that doing the right thing matters. That's what he said." Lina covered her mouth, tears threatening to rise again. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Celeste said kindly. "Just accept it, not as charity, as recognition." Lina wiped her eyes, laughing softly through her emotion. "This is all too much." "It's only fair," Celeste said. "He was really impressed, and he doesn't impress easily." Lina smiled, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "He gave me $100 bill, you know. I didn't even want to take it. He insisted." "That's how he tests people," Celeste replied. "Some walk away without a second glance. Some take the money and never look back." But you stayed even longer. He said you barely looked at the money. I didn't care about it, Lina said honestly. I just wanted him to find his flight, that was all. And that, Celeste said, is exactly why you deserve this. They sat in silence for a while, watching the clouds drift by outside the window. The sky had turned a soft, dusky blue. Tiny stars began to sparkle as the sun dipped lower. Are you still going to the interview? Celeste asked. Lina hesitated. I called them earlier. They said they couldn't reschedule. Celeste nodded thoughtfully. Let me make a call. Once we land, I know a few people in the hospitality industry. I think we can arrange something better than an interview. Lina looked at her, stunned. Why would you do that for me? Celeste's smile was calm and sure. Because I believe in investing in good people, and you're one of them. Lina felt a lump form in her throat again. For so long she had felt small. Overlooked. Just a girl from a small town who worked too hard for too little. And now someone important was telling her she was worth something. That she mattered. She didn't know what would come next. She didn't know what job would be offered or what path would open. But for the first time, she believed that maybe her life could truly change. When the flight attendant came by to ask if they'd like dessert, Lina said yes. She chose something chocolatey and warm. As she took the first bite, she realized something strange. She was smiling. Genuinely smiling. Not because she was pretending or trying to be polite, but because she finally believed something good was coming. Because even in a world that sometimes felt unfair and cold, kindness had found a way to rise, and somehow, somewhere above the clouds, everything finally started to make sense. The plane touched down softly on the San Diego runway, and Lina felt her heart jump as the wheels kissed the ground. She sat still for a moment, the seatbelt sign flashing overhead, but her thoughts were louder than the engines. She had been silent for most of the last hour, staring out the window, holding Celeste's words close like a fragile treasure. The woman beside her had given her space, offering only a gentle smile before returning to her book. But Lina knew the moment they landed, her life was about to change again. She just didn't know how. As the passengers began to rise and collect their belongings, the flight attendant came directly to Lina with a soft voice and kind eyes. Miss Morgan, please remain seated for a moment. A car is waiting for you. Lina blinked. A car? Yes, ma'am. You'll be escorted shortly. She nodded slowly, still feeling like she was inside a dream. Everyone else shuffled off the plane. Celeste stood and offered her one last glance. You're in good hands now, she said. And my father is looking forward to meeting you. With that, she walked away down the aisle, disappearing like a quiet chapter closing. A few minutes later, a uniformed man greeted Lina at the exit with her name on a card. He took her bag gently, led her through a side door, and guided her past the busy airport crowd. There were no lines this time. No confusion. Just calm movement through back corridors until she stepped outside into the cool afternoon air and saw the black car waiting. The driver opened the door. She stepped in, sinking into the soft leather seat, hands folded tightly in her lap. The windows were tinted. The city of San Diego moved outside, but she barely saw it. Her mind was spinning. The car didn't head toward the hotel she was supposed to stay at. Instead, it turned into a quiet business district, lined with polished glass buildings and signs that looked expensive even from far away. They stopped in front of a tall building with the airline's logo engraved in silver near the entrance. The driver opened the door. He's expecting you. Lina stepped out carefully, her legs unsteady. She wasn't dressed for this kind of place. Her simple blouse, secondhand flats, and worn shoulder bag felt too plain for such a shiny world. But she walked inside anyway. At the front desk, the receptionist smiled as if she'd been waiting all day just for Lina. Welcome, Miss Morgan. Mr. Monroe is upstairs. Please follow me. She was led to a private elevator. It rose silently, the floor numbers lighting up one by one until they reached the top. The doors opened to a quiet office floor with soft carpet and large windows that bathed everything in warm light. A tall man stood by the window, hands behind his back, looking out at the sky. Lina recognized him even before he turned around. Walter Monroe. He turned slowly, and his familiar eyes met hers, this time without confusion or tiredness. He was dressed neatly in a dark gray suit, but his expression was the same as it had been when he'd struggled with his suitcase, a mix of warmth and curiosity. "Miss Morgan," he said, his voice smooth but full of age and wisdom. "You came," she nodded, unsure if she was allowed to sit or speak or breathe. "Come in, sit down, please." She took the seat across from his desk, her hands still tight in her lap. He watched her for a moment, then sat down himself. "I wanted to thank you in person," he said. "People rarely surprise me anymore, but you did." Lina swallowed. "It wasn't anything special. I just saw someone who needed help. That's exactly why it was special," he said. "You didn't know who I was. You didn't gain anything from stopping. In fact, you lost something your flight, but you stayed. You walked slowly so I could keep up. You told the others to wait when they rushed past me. That isn't just kindness, Miss Morgan. That's character." She felt her face flush, unsure how to respond. Walter leaned forward. "When I started this airline 50 years ago, I told my team something I've never forgotten. I said, airplanes fly in the sky, but good service begins on the ground, with people who care. That's what I saw in you. That's what I still want in this company." "I was supposed to go to a hotel interview," Lina said softly. "It was all I could afford to chase." "I know," he said. "And I know they wouldn't reschedule it. That's a shame for them. But it gave me the chance to offer you something better." She looked up, surprised. "Better?" Walter nodded. "This airline has a training program. It's rare. Only a few people get selected each year. It's not just about working at the airport or checking people in. It's about learning everything: hospitality, corporate communication, leadership. How to run a service-driven business with a heart. I want to sponsor you for it." Lina stared at him, stunned. "Me?" "Yes, fully paid, housing, meals, uniform, travel. You'd be trained in different departments: customer care, onboard service, corporate ethics. In 1 year, you'd have the skills to work in any area you choose." "I don't have a degree," she whispered. "We can help with that later," he said. "For now, I need people who care. People who know how to treat others. The rest we can teach." Lina's eyes welled up again, but she blinked the tears away. "Why me? I'm no one important." "You are to me," Walter said simply. "And if more people in this world were like you, we'd all be flying a little smoother." She laughed, softly, unsure whether it was joy or nerves. "Probably both, but I don't know anything about corporate life," she admitted. "I've never even been inside an office like this before today." He smiled gently. "Neither had I once. I started as a luggage handler in Chicago. I only owned 1 pair of shoes. You learn. And I believe you'll learn quickly." "What? If I fail?" she asked quietly. "Then we'll help you stand up again," he said. "But I don't think you will." Silence fell between them, warm and gentle. The room felt less intimidating now. Lina looked around, seeing not just glass and steel, but something softer, a place where maybe she could belong. Walter leaned back. "You don't have to decide today, but the offer stands. My assistant will give you the details. You'll have a few days to think." Lina nodded slowly, still absorbing it all. "I do have one condition," he added. She looked up quickly. "If someday you see someone sitting alone on a bench, looking lost, you'll remember this moment. And you'll stop for them too." "I will," she said without hesitation. Walter smiled. "I know you will." He stood and extended his hand. She rose and shook it, her heart full and heavy at the same time. As she left the office, the receptionist handed her an envelope. Inside were the program details, a temporary ID badge, and a note from Celeste. "You were meant for more. Don't be afraid of the sky. It's waiting for you." Lina held it close to her heart as the elevator doors closed behind her. She didn't know what tomorrow would look like, but for the first time, she wasn't chasing dreams that ran away. For the first time, a dream had turned around and invited her in. Lina stood in front of the mirror in her small but neat company-provided apartment, adjusting the blazer of her new uniform. It still felt strange to wear something so crisp, so official. The badge clipped to her pocket read, "Trainee Customer Experience Division." Just a few weeks ago, she'd been boarding her first plane, nervous and alone. Now, she was being trained to represent one of the most respected airlines in the country, but each morning felt like a mountain. The training program was structured and intense. Every day started early with briefings, role plays, and sessions on communication, etiquette, problem solving, and cultural understanding. The rooms were filled with confident voices, polished shoes, and people who knew which fork to use and how to speak without hesitation. Lina often found herself sitting silently, unsure of what to say. She knew how to be kind, how to listen, how to help. But this was different. There were acronyms she didn't understand, polished phrases she had never heard, and trainers who moved with the smooth grace of people raised in boardrooms. One afternoon, during a session on high-end client handling, Lina spilled water on a fellow trainee's notes. She apologized over and over, but the girl just smiled thinly and said, "It's okay," with a voice that said it wasn't. Lina sat in her chair after the class, her hands clenched, wondering if she really belonged there. That night, she stood on the rooftop of her apartment, looking over the quiet city lights, thinking about home. The little diner where she worked weekends. The way her mom used to come home tired but always smiling. The second-hand books she used to read to escape. She thought of all the people who told her she was dreaming too big. Maybe they were right. For a moment, she considered quitting. Next morning, as she walked through the hallway to her session, she passed by the employee lounge and heard soft crying. It was a cleaning staff member, an older woman holding her phone in one hand, wiping her eyes with the other. Lina paused. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. The woman looked startled, then quickly wiped her tears. "Oh, I'm fine, sorry. I didn't mean to bother anyone." Lina sat beside her. "It's not a bother. Want to talk?" The woman looked at her for a moment, then nodded slowly. Her daughter had fallen ill back in her hometown, and the hospital bills were rising. She didn't know how she'd manage, especially with her overtime cut. Lina listened carefully. She didn't have a solution, but she stayed, held the woman's hand, and helped her make a call to HR to ask about emergency assistance. She offered to help fill out forms. She stayed until the woman smiled a little and thanked her. That same week, a fellow trainee was reprimanded harshly in front of everyone for making a mistake during a simulation. He tried to act tough, but Lina saw the way he clenched his jaw and stared down at his shoes. Later, she found him in the break room. "You did fine," she said simply. "No, I didn't," he muttered. "I'm not cut out for this." "You are," Lina said. "You just had a bad moment. Don't let it turn into a bad decision." He looked at her, surprised, then nodded slowly. Words started to spread quietly but surely. That the quiet girl from a small town was someone worth talking to. That she listened, really listened. That she didn't just do her part. She made others feel like they could do theirs. The trainers began to notice. One of them, Mr. Patel, a strict man who rarely smiled, began calling on Lina more often during sessions, not to test her, but to hear her thoughts. "Miss Morgan," he said one day, "what do you think matters most in luxury hospitality?" She looked up, nervous, then said softly, "Making people feel seen, not just served." He paused, then nodded once. "Good answer." Lina began to find her rhythm. No, she didn't walk like the others. She still didn't always know what to say in polished language. But when guests visited during real-time training exercises, they remembered her. A woman from Paris said, "You're the only one who looked me in the eye when I was tired." A businessman from Tokyo shook her hand and said, "You remembered my name even when no one else did." She didn't try to be perfect. She just tried to be present. Meanwhile, far above in a quiet office, Walter Monroe received regular updates from his staff. He never interfered, but he read every report. The head trainer once wrote, "She's not the fastest, but she's the most respected. Others follow her example." He smiled when he read that. One day, Lina was asked to help organize a welcome dinner for new clients from Dubai. She was terrified. There were catering details, seating plans, cultural protocols. She made a few mistakes, but instead of hiding them, she owned them. She worked late into the night to fix them, staying even after everyone else left. When the event finally happened, it went smoothly. A senior manager praised her work publicly. But Lina didn't take the credit alone. She mentioned every teammate by name. After the event, the janitor found her alone folding extra napkins. "You're the girl who helped Mira last month, right?" he asked. "Yes," she said, surprised. "My niece got help from HR because of that." "Thank you," Lina smiled. She deserved it. At the end of her third month, the trainees were asked to do a final presentation. Most chose topics like crisis handling, luxury service protocols, or brand excellence. Lina's topic was different. She stood in front of the panel, her voice shaking slightly, and said, "My topic is kindness behind the curtain. How backstage staff build the frontline experience." She spoke about cleaning staff, kitchen teams, shuttle drivers, call center agents, the ones who didn't wear suits but carried the heart of the company. She shared small stories about how a tired cleaner once reminded a manager to smile, how a cafeteria worker helped a lost intern. "They're not just workers," she said. "They're the first line of comfort, the ones who see what the guests never do. If we don't respect them, we break the chain of care." The room was quiet. Then one trainer stood. Then another. Applause followed, not loud, but full. Later that week, Walter Monroe visited the training center in person. He really did that. He walked through the halls like a man who already knew the answers but liked to hear the questions. He watched quietly from the back of a session where Lina helped new trainees understand the system. She didn't see him. She was too busy helping one of them reprint a lost schedule. That night, a letter arrived at her apartment. It was handwritten. "Dear Miss Morgan, I watched you today. You haven't just grown, you've helped others grow around you. That's what leadership looks like, even when it wears quiet shoes. Keep going. The sky is still just the beginning. Walter Monroe." Lina folded the letter and placed it in her diary. She stood by the window, looking at the stars. She was no longer the girl with a ticket and a dream. She was becoming the woman who made others believe in their own dreams too. Lina stood by the tall glass window of her new office, watching planes take off into the clear morning sky. It still felt a little unreal. The girl who once sat on an airport bench with a missed flight and a broken dream was now standing in a place she never thought she'd reach. A soft knock on the door pulled her back from her thoughts. "Ma'am, they're ready for you downstairs," said a young assistant, smiling nervously. Lina gave a warm nod. "Thank you, Leo, I'll be there in a moment." She glanced at her reflection in the glass. She still wore simple clothes, nothing flashy, nothing loud. Her hair was neatly tied back, and the only thing different from before was the calm, quiet confidence in her eyes. It hadn't come easily, but she had earned it step by step. Months had passed since her training began. At first, every day had been a struggle, but over time, something inside her had changed. She had learned the codes, the systems, and the rules, yes. But more than that, she had learned that she didn't need to change who she was to make a difference. She just needed to stay true to what she believed in, that kindness matters, that people matter, and that travel should feel human, not just efficient. The chairman, Walter Monroe, had noticed her efforts long before she had noticed her own growth. He had kept an eye on her progress. He had listened to the stories from the trainers, from fellow employees, even from guests. Over time, he realized Lina wasn't just good at her job, she was reshaping the culture around her. Quietly, humbly, powerfully. And then just 2 weeks ago, the announcement came. The airline was creating a brand new department. A department that didn't just look at numbers or profits, but focused on the emotional and human side of flying. They called it human-centered travel. And Lina Morgan was chosen to lead it. The news shocked her. She had cried the night she was told, not because she was scared, but because she was overwhelmed by the thought that someone like her could be trusted with something so important. She called her mother that night. Her mother didn't say much, just cried and whispered, "I'm proud of you, baby," again and again. Now, she was about to step on stage to give her first official speech as the head of the department. As she walked down the hallway toward the conference room, people smiled and nodded. These were no longer strangers. Some had trained with her, others had watched her grow. She stopped briefly by the hallway mirror, smoothed her jacket, and took a deep breath. The room was full. Company executives, media reporters, staff from the hum, all departments, and even a few guests who had been invited to share their stories. And there, in the front row, sat Walter Monroe, the old man she once helped at the airport. Today, he wore a crisp gray suit, but his warm eyes and kind smile hadn't changed. Lina stepped onto the stage. The lights were soft. A gentle hush fell over the room. She looked around, took a slow breath, and began. "Good morning, everyone. I'm not used to standing on stages or speaking into microphones. So I hope you'll forgive me if I stumble over my words. I come from a small town. We didn't have much, but we had each other. I grew up watching my mother work 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. I learned early that kindness doesn't cost anything, but it means everything. She paused, her voice steady, her eyes scanning the crowd. A few months ago, I missed a flight because I stopped to help an old man who was struggling with his bags. I thought I lost my one and only chance at a better life. But what I didn't know was that moment when I made a choice from the heart was the moment that changed everything. There was silence in the room, not the kind that felt empty, but the kind filled with emotion. I've flown many times since then. Sat in meetings, worked on policies, listened to passenger feedback. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: behind every boarding pass is a story. A tired father flying home from a business trip. A young girl leaving her country for the first time. A nervous grandmother afraid of flying. Every traveler carries more than luggage. They carry hopes, fears, memories. And every employee, every cleaner, every gate agent, every flight attendant, they carry the heart of this company. She glanced at Walter Monroe, who gave her a small nod. This new department, human-centered travel, isn't about big changes that look good on paper. It's about small things that feel right in the heart. A smile, a warm meal, a kind word when someone's delayed. We want to make flying feel personal again, not just for the VIPs, but for everyone. She paused, then smiled gently. I dedicate this moment to every tired traveler and every unnoticed helper. You're the reason we do what we do. The room erupted in applause, not loud or wild, but steady and deep, like a heartbeat that had just been heard for the first time. After the speech, people came up to her, some just to shake her hand, others with tears in their eyes. A young intern whispered, "You give me hope." An older flight attendant said, "We've waited years for someone to say what you just said." Lina thanked each one with warmth and sincerity. But when Walter Monroe came forward, she stood still. He walked up slowly, and for a moment they just looked at each other. "You did good," he said softly. "Better than I ever imagined." Lina's eyes welled up, but she smiled. "Thank you for not walking away that day at the airport." He chuckled. "You didn't walk away from me either." Later that evening, Lina sat by the same window in her office. The sun was setting. The sky looked like it had been painted in gold and rose. She looked down at the runways where planes rolled forward, ready to take people to places they'd never been. She thought of every moment that brought her here. The jobs she worked, the sacrifices she made, the people who helped her believe. She pulled out a notebook and started writing ideas. Not about profits or graphs, but about moments. A program to help employees understand empathy. A surprise gift plan for passengers going through hard times. A listening booth at major airports where travelers could share their stories anonymously. Small things. Human things. A soft chime on her phone broke her thoughts. It was a message from her mother. "Watched your speech online. You're changing the sky, baby. I love you." Lina smiled. Her eyes sparkled with quiet joy as the night fell and the city lights blinked on one by one. Lina stood up and walked to the large glass window again. Somewhere in the distance, a plane lifted into the air, its lights blinking steadily. She placed her hand gently on the glass. She had once missed a flight and thought her dream had ended, but now she was helping thousands of dreams take flight every single day. And this time, she wasn't just flying, she was leading. She was making the sky feel like home.